find out what's going on. Hi, everyone. This is also from Max. Thank you, Max. Chapter 12 of Calling on Dragons, which is exceedingly muddy. Oh, no. Mormon looked around. Here and there, tall, thin trees shot upward from the omnipresent mud. High in the air, they suddenly sprouted a wide, dense mat of twisted branches. Long, fuzzy gray-green strips of moss dangled from the branches, shutting out most of the light, and patches of dirty white fog drifted among the trunks. Between the fog and the shadows, it was hard to be sure of seeing anyone. Even Kazul seemed to melt into the gloom. Okay, Kazul's there. Oh, and Killer. Only Killer's vivid blue stood out against the muddy colors of the swamp. Is everyone else here? Mormon said. Her stomach was already settling down, which was a relief. The last time this had happened, it had taken much longer. Simri nodded. Then I'll look for Telemaine. There's bound to be some residue from the transportation spell for me to trace. The rest of you stay together so I can find you again. If we split up in this mess, we're likely to lose someone permanently. I suppose that's best, Simran said, but she did not sound happy. Morin was not very happy about the arrangement either, but she did not say anything more as Simran squelched back to Kazul. Then, with a resigned sigh, she reached into her left sleeve and pulled out a ball of red yarn and a shiny metal plate, 3 inches across with a small hole near the rim. Focusing her attention on her most recent memories of Telemaine's magic, she tied the yarn to the plate. She bent and breathed on the metal, clouding it over, and then said quickly, "Green and growing, show me. Swift and silent, show me. Damp and dingy, show me. Deep and shining, show me what I would see." With her last words, she released the plate so that it hung free. It spun wildly on the end of the yarn, and she felt it tug lightly to the right, well away from the others. Carefully she turned, letting the faint pull guide her. It took considerable concentration to follow the spell while slogging through the cold, sticky mud. "I thought something smelled different over this way," Scorn said. Morwen spared a moment for a glance at the cat. "You might have told me." "You were busy." "You were busy. Okay. True. Next time, tell me anyway." The tug was growing stronger. Morwen dodged around a tree trunk and almost stepped on Telemaine. Oh no, he lay face up in the mud, his eyes closed, and his skin an unhealthy grayish white. Morwen had to look twice to be sure that he was still breathing. Stuffing her yarn and the middle plate back in her sleeve, Morwen shouted for Simri to come at once and bring the others. Then she crouched next to Telemaine to see what she could do for him. Fortunately, what he needed most was to be warm, dry, and somewhere he could sleep in comfort. He must have been even more tired than I thought he was, or the back shock wouldn't have affected him this badly, Morwen thought. He should have said something. "Stubborn fool," she said aloud. "This comes as a surprise," Scorn said. "Thank you for heaping scorn on him, Scorn." Morwen, what? Oh, my. Serene squished over as quickly as she could, followed by Killer and Kazul. Trouble, somewhat muddy and damp-looking, was clinging with grim determination to a spot high on Kazul's back. The moment the dragon stopped moving, Trouble extended a rear leg and began washing it vigorously. Killer looked unusually pleased with himself, probably because floating 6 inches off the ground had kept him the only completely dry and unmuddy member of the group. For once! Oh my god, it's a benefit to him. "What happened?" Kazul said as Simrin joined Morwen. "That was not one of the most enjoyable experiences I've ever had." "I'm not completely sure." Morwen reached into her right sleeve and began fishing around. Oops, I'm a witch, not a magician, but I think it's backshock from the transportation spell." "Backshock?" If you pull a rubber band too hard, it breaks and snaps your fingers," Simrin explained. "The same sort of thing can happen when someone loses control of a spell, only it's usually more serious than stinging fingers." "Oh." Killer looked at Morwen. "Rubber band?" Never mind. That's right, he wouldn't know what a rubber band is. "Ah, there it is." She pulled her heavy-duty wool camping blanket out of her sleeve, glanced around for a dry spot to put it, and ended by draping it across Killer's back. "Simran, we have to get Telemaine out of this mud. Help me lift him onto Killer." What? Wait a minute," said Killer, taking 2 hasty steps backward. "I'm not supposed to do things like this. I'm a rabbit." "You used to be," said Morwen. "Now you're a 6-foot, floating blue donkey. Hold still." "But you'll get mud all over me." Trouble glanced up from his washing. "Good idea. Can I help?" "Oh, shit. If you do, you'll get muddy too," Scorn said. She looked at Trouble. "Muddier." "The mud will get on my blanket," Morwen said, "and I can tell you already that Mendebar is going to get a really enormous cleaning bill when this is all over." "But don't argue," Kazul said to the donkey. "I'm feeling cross enough already and my stomach is bothering me." "This stomachache is a side effect of snapping the transportation spell," Morwen said. "The bad temper is probably from waking up too early. Ready, Simmarine?" Killer did argue, of course. It took nearly as long to convince him as it took to pry Telemaine's unconscious body out of the mud, wrap him in Morwen's blanket, and hoist him onto the donkey's back. "There," Simmarine panted, steadying Telemaine with one hand. "That's done. "And it looks pretty useless to me," Scorn said. She had joined Trouble on top of Kazul and was watching the whole procedure with an expression of disapproval. "Now that you've got him up there, what are you going to do with him?" Killer shifted his feet in evident unease. "This is really uncomfortable. Isn't there somewhere else you could put him?" "He doesn't care much for riding on you either," Morwen said. "Don't worry, we'll try to keep it short. Kazul, can you see anything that looks like a way out of here?" Stretching up to her full height, Kazul peered into the fog. "No. The fog's getting thicker and the trees all look the same." "Hey, warn me before you do that," Trouble said reproachfully. "I almost fell off." Kazul lowered her forelegs and glanced over her shoulder. "That can be arranged." "It wouldn't matter," Scorn said to Trouble. "All that washing hasn't done much good. You still look like something the dog dragged in." That is a huge cat insult. Huge cat insult. "You've got wings," Killer said to Kazul. "Why don't you fly up and look around?" "Because there isn't enough room between these trees for a proper takeoff. Because flying in fog is dangerous. Because I probably couldn't find you once I got above the treetops," said Kazul. "Tops of the forest all look the same." "Oh. You found Talamane," Serene said to Morin. "Can't you use the same method to find a way out of here?" "I could if there were any magic left to trace," Morin said. "Unfortunately, there isn't." "Pick a direction." "That way," said Cimarine, and they started off. Walking through the swamp was hard work. With every step, the ankle-deep mud sucked at their feet. Twice Cimarine almost lost one of her short leather boots, and even Kazul had difficulty making headway. The only one who had no problem was Killer. Talamane's added weight did not pull him down at all. His hooves stayed a dry 6 inches above the muck, no matter what. Morin found herself wondering, a little sourly, whether the donkey could walk across water the same way he did across the endless mud. Which would mean he's Jesus. Ignore that. Around noon, Morwen passed out chicken salad sandwiches to everyone. I want one of those." Her sleeves had protected them from the mud, which was doubly fortunate since Simran's pack had leaked and the remains of breakfast were inedible. Unexpectedly, no one complained about a stomachache, though Killer complained about the taste of the lettuce and the bread, and the sandwiches disappeared rapidly. When they finished eating, they went on. Morwen kept a close but unobtrusive eye on Talamane. Though he did not stir, he did not appear to grow any worse either, which surprised her a little. She kept both her surprise and her worries to herself. On and on they waited, until the shadows began to thicken as did the fog. Beads of moisture glistened on Kazul's scales, and the cats complained loudly of the camp. Morwen gave up trying to keep her glasses from clouding over. Talamane remained unconscious, and the worry line between Simrine's eyebrows grew deeper. "It'll be dark soon," Simrine said at last. "We should find somewhere to camp. If there's anywhere." "Yeah, like where are they gonna... Where are they? They're in Portland. Or Seattle, that's my guess." That's the terrible joke. "We haven't seen a dry spot since we got here." "Killer, where do you think you're going?" "I'm hungry," Killer said. "If you're going to make me haul people around, the least you could do is let me eat. It's been a long time since lunch." "There isn't anything to eat," Simrine said. "Not for you, maybe, but those things over there look edible to me." "What things?" Feeling slightly annoyed, Morwen took off her glasses and began hunting for a clean patch of rope to wipe them on. "Those things wrapped around the trees," Killer said, cocking a bright blue ear to his left. "The viney things with the silver leaves. There was one patch of clover back home that had silver leaves sometimes. It was especially good. Sweet and tart at the same time, and quite strong." "Oh boy. I don't think it's... This is going to be something." "You're seeing things," Simrine said. "There aren't any vines on those trees." "There are too. You must be looking in the wrong place. Here, I'll show." Morwen shoved her glasses back into her nose and snapped, "Killer, stop right where you are. Don't take another step toward those vines of yours. If they're really there, they could be dangerous." Killer looked at her in disbelief. "They're just plants." "Possibly. Kazul, do you see anything?" "Trees. Frog." "I'm sorry. Trees, fog, and mud," the dragon replied. "Lots and lots of mud. And I agree with Cimarine. We should be trying to find somewhere to camp, not arguing about imaginary vines." "Not imaginary," Morwen corrected. "Invisible. To be exact..." Oh no, invisible, dusk-blooming choke vines. She peered at the trees, wishing she had time to collect one or two of them. Then she shook her head. Cimarine and Kazul were right, and they'd wasted enough time already. "They don't look dangerous," Killer said stubbornly. "And I'm hungry." "The last time you said that, you drank Morwen's wizard melting water and turned blue," Scorn said. "Quiet," said Trouble. "Go on, Killer." "I would if I were you." "You hush," said Morwen. "Oh my God, the cats." "Keep away from those plants, Killer. They're called choke vines for a very good reason. Try to remember you're carrying Talamane and avoid anything dangerous. And let us know if you see any more of those vines." "Oh, there are patches of them all over," Killer said. "We've been walking by them for the last hour. You really can't see them at all? None of you?" "I can," Trouble said. Morwen gave him a look. "We'll discuss it later." As she turned away, a soft globe of light blossomed from the side of one of the trees Killer had pointed at. What on earth is that? Simrine said. Another light appeared, and another, and suddenly the swamp was full of ghostly radiance. Invisible, dusk-blooming choke vines, all right, Morwen said. The sun must be setting. It's beautiful, Simrine said. How long will it last? An hour, maybe two. As she spoke, Morwen moved to Killer's side to check on Telemane's condition once more. His color was no better, and the skin of his wrist was cold and clammy where she touched it to take his pulse. Of course, everything was cold and damp after hours of laboring through the mud. At least his pulse was strong. Will he be all right? Simrine asked, joining her. Probably, Morwen said with more confidence than she felt. The worst case of back shock she had ever seen prior to this trip had regained consciousness in a little over an hour. Telemane had already been out more than twice that long and showed no sign of awakening. Bouncing about on Killer's back should not have delayed his recovery this long. I suspect something else is wrong. It's very, very, very wrong. Look at the bright side, Scorn said. As long as he's unconscious, he can't go on about things no one else understands. Oh no. Realizing that Simrine and Kazul were watching her anxiously, Morwen shook herself. What he really needs is warmth, rest, and a bowl of hot broth. And we aren't going to find them standing here, Simrine finished for her. Come on, Killer. We'd better keep moving while we can still see. In one way, the next half hour of walking was easier than the last couple had been. The invisible dusk-blooming choke vines lit the swamp with a silvery glow, like the light of 100 miniature moons. As the group went farther along, the vines grew more and more thickly, and their blossoms shone more and more brightly, until even the mud seemed to glisten like liquid silver. Not only was it pretty to look at, but it also made it much easier to see where they were stepping. After a while, they paused to rest. Morwen checked on Telemane again, with no better results. Frowning, she turned away. If they didn't find somewhere dry and warm soon. Simrine, Morwen, said Kazul. Look at these lights. I have been, all the time we were walking, Simrine said. They're useful as well as pretty. No, I mean look at them. Kazul stretched out her neck and swiveled her head from one side to the other. They aren't just growing at random. They're in rows. Morwen studied the lights. Not quite. The trees aren't in rows, so the vines can't be either. But they're close. It's as if someone arranged them to light a path, Simrine said after a moment. I don't know if I like this. I do, Morwen said. Paths lead somewhere. And if someone has gone to the trouble of lighting this one up, there's a good chance it leads somewhere useful. In that case, why didn't they pave it? Maybe they like mud. Come on, we've only got another hour or so before the lights go out. With renewed energy, they went on. Less than a quarter of an hour later, they reached a dead end. The invisible dusk-blooming choke vines covered the trees on either side and hung in swirls of glowing silver across the trunks ahead. The only way out was the way they had come. Useful, huh? Said Scorn. This doesn't make any sense, said Simrine. Why would anyone make a path that leads nowhere? She drew her sword, eyeing the vines doubtfully. Can we cut our way through, do you think? I don't know, said Kazul, and I don't care. Her tail thumped into the mud for emphasis, splattering thick, sticky gobs in all directions. Uh-oh, said Trouble. Hang on, Scorn. The dragon sat back and arched her neck. I'm not going to spend another 2 hours fighting the same mud we came through. If I must wade through mud, it is at least going to be new mud. Get out of my way, the rest of you. Are you thinking of diving through the vines? Don't, Morwen said, moving sideways. Invisible dusk-blooming choke vines are very strong, and there are enough of them here to kill even someone as large as you are. Not if they've been toasted first. Stretching her hand forward until it was only a few yards from the choke vines, Kazul opened her mouth and blew. Long streams of bright orange fire shot between the trees. Kazul's head moved back and forth, sweeping the flames across the end of the path. Steam hissed from the mud, and glowing silver blossoms winked out in puffs of ash. As Kazul's flame moved across the tree trunks, it left smaller flickers of fire behind hanging in midair. On the second pass, the flickers spread, outlining leaves and stems and tongues of flames. Blackened spirals slowly materialized around the trees as the fires burned upward and the charred vines lost their invisibility. I think that's good enough, Kazul, Simrine said at last. The fire died. Good, said the dragon, sounding a little out of breath. Shall we go on? I think we better wait until the mud cools off, Morwen said. You got a trifle over-enthusiastic, I'm afraid. No kidding, said Score. Next time, warn us before you do that. Okay, I'm almost at 15 minutes. There's not much left in this chapter, but I need to make another video.